From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up War Chant, part of the WarChant.com family. Use that promo code WarChant30 if you're not already a member of the ultimate Seminole sports source. Also, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes or your podcast provider of choice, but do the review on iTunes. That's what matters. And it's the 7th as you're listening to this show, so we're not going to read our latest review because it doesn't fall on the 5th. Which would have been Cinco de Mayo. Did you do anything crazy for Cinco de Mayo, Corey Clark?
No, I watched some 10-year-old baseball games.
Awesome. Sounds rad.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. Shout out to my brothers and sisters. Happy Ramadan, everybody. And shout out to the grads, the folks who graduated, the folks who've wrapped up their semester and left Tallahassee and made this city a safer place. I can drive and not worry about getting sideswiped by all you crazy kids on your phones. Just kidding. I miss you guys all. Let's come back. Let's talk. Let's do some more Knoll talk today. We're going to do a lot of Knoll talk today, Corey. People want us to talk about the Knolls. Is there a lot on your mind when it comes to talking about the Knolls on May 7th, 2019?
No, they got the big the basketball transfer from Ole Miss. Literally a big one. I don't know if he's any good at all, but he's big. And baseball, 1, 2 of 3 against, the worst team in the league, but they still did what they had to do. Sort of. And then, football, I don't know what really they're – they got the big recruit, the receiver.
Yeah.
Holy moly. I haven't seen one clip of him playing football, but the basketball stuff is insanity.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Even LeBron and Dwayne Wade bow down before him.
I mean, since I've been here, Florida State has had a couple of guys that have played both. It's really hard to do. The seasons overlap. There's a difference between being in basketball shape and football shape. It might be a little easier with a running back, but then Marquez White, he was a really big-time basketball player in Alabama. He's from Dothan, I think.
He is, Northview High School.
Was a good player and actually played in an ACC tournament game for them, mainly just for defense. But I wonder if this kid is legitimately going to be a guy that does both, because they haven't had many. They've had a lot that have tried. Going way back to Brad Johnson and Andre Cooper and people like that. I think Charlie, there's probably one that I'm forgetting, but I think Charlie is the only one that's really made an impact doing both. And that was 26 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we spoke to Michael Langston the other day when the commitment dropped on Sunday, and he did make it sound like, from what he's been able to gather, that he legitimately wants to do both. So we'll just see. Like you said, it's a really difficult pursuit to undertake, but if he's willing, I'm sure, he seems like he's got the raw athletic ability to make it happen. He's listed at 6'5", 195. His tape is not too overwhelming when it comes to his football stuff, but like you mentioned, I mean, literally, folks, if you search him on Twitter or even YouTube, Malachi Wideman. By the way, Malachi, what a fantastic name that is.
Great name.
He's at the Summer Showcase AAU sort of tournaments, and LeBron James and Dwayne Wade are at one of them, maybe even more than one of them. And, I mean, literally LeBron gets up and then, during a timeout, just goes over and, daps him up just because he just threw down a ferocious one-handed dunk from, the top of the key practically. So, lots of good tools he brings to the table for sure. Maybe we'll go ahead and I'll tack on the conversation I had with Michael Langston at the end of this podcast, kind of the way we do Thrones'in and around. But it'll just be Knoll talk.
Good.
It'll be Knoll talk, everybody.
Somebody with Langston, and everybody will hear in the moment, so don't give away spoilers of the Langston interview. He's definitely a football recruit, though.
Correct. Yes.
He won't be coming in on a basketball scholarship.
Correct.
Is he a big-time basketball recruit?
He has, I don't know what his star ranking is, but he does also have a Rivals recruiting page for his basketball. He's got a basketball profile as well, not just a football one. I can actually try to pull it up here right now. But, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he probably has offers as I'm trying to pull this up here and stalling for time. I mean, he's a 4-star recruit in basketball as well.
Man.
Yeah, they list him as a small forward, the number 92 prospect in the entire nation, according to
What?
Rivals.com.
Is he really? Dude, so yeah, I mean that it's not like this sitting Duke or Kentucky. Like Florida State doesn't land top 100 recruits all the time. They'll land 1 or 2 a year, maybe.
Yeah.
So to just have a guy that's another sport guy that can come in and add to and he's going to be essentially a walk-on for basketball. Like they don't even have to use a scholarship for him. Man, that's good job, gang. It'll be fun. I'm telling you, those highlights. I've seen a lot of guys dunk in my day. There's some violence and some incredible athleticism to that kid.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to be excited about. Definitely interested to see how that'll translate to playing hoops. Football, because, again, that'll probably be his primary thing. At least that's what we're expecting. But I do want to see somebody try to pull off the old double-double, man. That's just a crazy thing, We need something.
It's hard to do. You see it in baseball all the time. Baseball and football is more natural because the seasons don't overlap, and it's not. You don't really have to necessarily be in baseball shape.
Right.
But basketball shape is a real thing, especially the way Florida State plays. So yeah, man, that's exciting. I'm excited about that kid.
Yeah.
What are they, number 5 in the rankings right now?
Moving up, man. Yeah, number 5. That's where. Just where we thought they'd be coming off a 5-7 season. Number 5.
I hear Clemson's really struggling on the trail, so they should be narrowing that gap in no time.
Yeah, man. No, actually, didn't Clemson get the number 1 quarterback? I know you're being
facetious.
They've
got I think they've got 8 of the top 20 players in the country or something ridiculous. It's I don't know what's going on there.
It's all right, man. The FBI is going to take them down. Because that assistant coach said something on tape, so it's all good. It's going to happen. It's happening. It's coming down. Enjoy it while it lasts, Clemson. Your days are done. Your days are numbered.
I hope you enjoyed it while it lasted.
Yeah, but while we're still on the basketball thing, I guess to a certain degree, Olenicek, I think is how you pronounce his name. That's the recruit from Ole Miss that Corey was mentioning. 7 foot, 260. This is actually his third school. He started off at Drake. Then went to Ole Miss and now will be at Florida State. This past season, according to Ira, started 22 of 33 games, averaging over 5 points per contest. He's Polish, in case you wondered. His first name is Dominic, so we'll probably call him Dom, the Dominator. Dom-tastic, all that kind of stuff. We do have something football-related to talk about somewhat, Corey. It's actually part of the question I put out there for folks on the Renegade Express. Hop over to the Tribal Council, leave your question for the program. We'll probably do that Thursday. I'll be on the road with Langston doing some more recruiting stops. We'll actually talk to Malachi Wideman. What do you want me to ask him? I'm going to actually talk to him on Wednesday. So if you have any questions you want me to ask him, Corey, you let me know. It'll be your own version of Renegade Express. I'll just ask the questions.
Yeah, I'll think of one, but I'm sure there's obviously I trust you and your abilities anyway to ask a question, solid questions.
Right.
But there's I want to know. I guess I can't. I just want to know what it's like to be that kind of athlete. But you can't ask them that. For a day, I would like to go to a court or a field and be able to do stuff like that.
Right.
Just for a day, buddy. I want to know the first time he dunked.
Okay.
I want to know why he's so angry when he dunks.
Okay.
I want to know if when he scores a touchdown in Doak, is he going to dunk over the goalpost no matter what the penalty is?
Yes.
And I don't want to see just a normal dunk. Those are dime a dozen. Tony Gonzalez did that. He's a 270-pound tight end. My man can jump out of the gym. I want to see something electric when he dunks it over the goalpost. I want him to jump up and stand on the goalpost.
How about instead of the turnover backpack, we hand him a rim when he scores a touchdown. He just holds a rim up in the air.
Yeah, exactly right. Like didn't the Clemson baseball team do that when they hit home runs?
Yeah, but they had a little Nerf, backboard rim combo. I'm give him a legitimate metal rim and just have him hold it up, hoist it over his head, just as a champion, man.
Well, no, I think he should give it to one of his teammates and he can dunk on it.
Dunk on it?
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, either way it works. And Malachi is a great name.
It's a fantastic name. Who's the tallest guy on the roster right now? I'm trying to think. He's 6'5", so it's going to be hard for somebody. Someone's going to have to really hold it up. Maybe could we put somebody on someone's shoulders? Maybe that's what we'll do.
Kane-Do could hold it up for someone.
Yeah, put Keyshawn Helton on Kane-Do's shoulders and then have Malachi Wideman throw it down after a touchdown. There.
Yeah,
we figured it out.
Let's hope he scores a lot of them.
We have figured it out. But, yeah, there's somewhat of a football thing to talk about. Again, it's part of the intro to the question that we pose to the viewers and the listeners on warchant.com for the Renegade Express. This it's the Post-and-Courier, which is based in Charleston, South Carolina, I think. Corey, you know more about the print side of things, right? Is that Charleston, Post-and-Courier? Or is it Columbia?
Sounds right. Sounds right, sure.
Somewhere in South Carolina. They have a columnist by the name of Gene Sapikoff, and it is list season. And we all know that Corey loves these preseason lists.
They're the best. They are the best.
So what he did was he ranked from 1 to 28 the ACC and SEC football coaches from number 1 to number 28. And, for me to even mention this on air, you would have to have Jimbo Fisher in your top 5. So it passes that smell test. He has
barely.
Jimbo, he has Jimbo at number 5.
Yeah. Who's ahead of him? Who's 3 and 4?
Dan Mullen's 3, Kirby's 4.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Number 1 and number 2 is ridiculous.
Why? Oh, Dabo being in front of Nick Saban?
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, look, and I'm a big fan of Dabo now, man. I've completely turned the corner. I appreciate what he's done. I hope there are more Dabos in our lives in this sport. Nick Saban is inarguably the best college football coach of all time. Yeah. LSU has been kind of largely irrelevant definitely before he got there, and kind of since he got there. But when he was there, they were winning championships. Then he goes to Alabama, who hadn't won anything in 15 years, and it was scraping the bottom of the barrel with all these. And then he's turned them into the New York Yankees. Come on, man! Don't be sitting here telling me Dabo is a better coach than Nick Saban. Yeah. Anyway, that I know what you're getting at, but that right away that doesn't pass the smell test.
Well, here's
and
the
I know
thing.
where we're getting at with the bottom of the list.
We'll say if warchant.com did their 50 best Florida State football players of all time, and say I put number 1 Christian Ponder, okay, you could throw and sling arrows at me, but it's not a warchant.com consensus, right? This isn't like warchant.com propaganda or something. It's just one guy who works for this entity. So this is the Post-and-Courier's got a columnist. So this isn't like, oh, everybody ESPN hates us. It's usually like, Dallin Cuff, who we had on the show during basketball, would say there's a name behind whatever you're reading on ESPN or whatever you're seeing on ESPN. It's not a corporate-wide memo that comes down. Ryan Russillo mentioned that on his podcast, and, he's still with ESPN, but he talks about all the time that he was at ESPN. Like, he never, ever, ever had any sort of inkling of direction given to him to like hype up the SEC. He talked about like the biases that he has, and like it was funny. He made this funny sort of story about how he hates the Rockets because of the way they play and the way they whined about the refereeing in Game 1 of their semifinal against Golden State. But then, like his co-host was like, "Yeah, some people might think that you're pro SEC." He's like, "Hey man, he's like I'm from Boston. I have no bias when it comes to college football." He's like, "I've been to Baton Rouge. I love LSU." He's like, "But listen," he's like, "they were on a run there for a while that you have to kind of tip your cap to." But yeah, I mean, it's just, again, these are individual people who have opinions on things, and I mean, it's probably funny that we're sitting here and talking about it for this much, but it's May 7th, and you want Knoll Talk, F No Limit 504. That's the name of some guy who got mad at us for talking about Game of Thrones, despite the fact that we put it at the end of the podcast, but I'm not upset. Anywho.
Well, not only that, but we tell people, hey, we're done talking about football, so if you don't want to hear about Game of Thrones, turn it off. We're cool with that. Right. We know it's not for everybody. Heck, what percentage of the country even watches the show? 9%? That's probably way too high. Like it's kind of, every TV show these days is kind of a niche show. So we know there's people that tune us out once we start Thrones'in it up.
Yeah,
but that's perfectly fine. But we do give you warning. It's not like we just start talking Game of Thrones for 40 minutes.
All right. Are there any other?
Are we
names?
doing that, by the way, at the end of this one?
I don't know. Should we do it today or do it for Renegade Express? This might be a little bit of a longer show than usual because we got some things to bite into here with this, obviously. And
I feel like we should say, just to be fresh, we should probably do it today, right?
Okay, we can do that. All right.
Yeah.
It'll be a nice extra long episode for you folks because we'll also have Langston at the end of it talking about Malachi Wideman. All right.
But you haven't even gotten to the part of the list that matters.
Right, which is Mac Brown, 23.
Sure.
Behind Derek Mason from Vanderbilt's 22. Bronco Mendenhall is 13th. How is Bronco Mendenhall in front of Derek Mason, who has kept Vanderbilt at a respectable level? But anywho, Willie Taggart's on the list, obviously, because he's an ACC coach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Willie Taggart checks in at number 28 out of 28.
Out of 28. And
this includes a list that's got a guy from Appalachian State and Scott Satterfield, who's now at Louisville, hasn't coached one single game in the ACC. Mac Brown, who's been out of coaching for, I don't know, is it 6 years? Jeff Collins, another guy who wasn't coaching in the ACC last year, leaving Temple, obviously coming to Georgia Tech. Manny Diaz is 20th based on mainly his recruiting prowess. And I think maybe right now Miami might be ahead of Florida State, but by not that large of a margin. So anyhow, I'll read the little blurb. Everyone's got a little bit of a sentence blurb after their name. For example, Kirby Smart, number 4, a few plays against Alabama or a few committee votes shy of a second straight college football playoff appearance. And then for Taggart, the blurb attached to him is, what's worse, a once proud Florida State program ranking 112th nationally in scoring offense or 90th in scoring defense? The Seminoles' record streak of 36 straight seasons with a bowl appearance dating to 1982 was snapped with a 5-7 finish.
Well, sure, you can't argue that. What I would say in response to him being on the list, and I've talked to Ira as we record this, I don't know if I'm going to write on it. It's such low-hanging fruit, and it's just a sports writer. Like I feel like I'm giving this dude way too much
oxygen.
We're entertaining it too much as it is. It's just some rando South Carolina writer's opinion. And I don't mean rando. I mean, that sounded dismissively. He's a columnist. I'm sure he's been doing it a long time. What do we care? But the same token, what bothers me is look up and down that list, man. How many of them, and I know Willie has a losing record. I get it. How can you but he's also turned around 2 programs. Like, if you're just going on accomplishments, taking Western Kentucky to their first ever bowl after they lost 20-something straight games before he got there, turning South Florida from a 0-win team into a 10-win team in 4 years. That's stuff that you would think would get you higher than 28 out of 28, no matter what happened in his first season at Florida State, which obviously was a nightmare. But that's not the only season he's ever coached. So Manny Diaz has not coached a game. He certainly hasn't tried to build up Western flipping Kentucky into a bowl team. So that's kind of what bothers me. I don't know, man. I don't know how you look at it. And it's not like it's a lot of great names, man. The SEC just recycles dudes every 4 years. I just don't know how you look at any of those. I don't know how do you have Jeremy Pruitt ahead of Willie Taggart? Didn't they both have the same record last year? Except Willie Taggart has won at multiple stops in his career. No, his first team at Florida State was terrible. You're telling me he's the worst coach in the ACC and the SEC? Then what happened at South Florida? Magic? Did he have an elixir that somehow he just sprinkled dust on those guys and made them win 10 games? What happened at Western Kentucky? Like, I get it. He might not work out at Florida State. I'm pulling for him too. But to say he's the worst coach in the ACC based on one season, probably more recency bias than that. Yeah. Having Derek Mason 22 is pretty nutty in my opinion too.
Yeah.
But man, having a guy, and again, you're not listening to someone that thinks Willie Taggart did a bang-up job last year, because he certainly didn't. But I also know that Willie Taggart has been a head coach for a decade plus now. Mm-hmm. And to look at all those resumes of the guys ahead of him and say, I would look at he's got Dave Clawson 7th.
Yeah.
At Wake Forest. You're telling me Dave Clawson has had a more impressive coaching career than Willie Taggart? Like, that much more? Or Dave Doran? Dave Doran got Northern Illinois to an Orange Bowl so they could get smoked by Florida State. That was great, I guess.
Take that.
But it is just, anyway, we've already spent way too much time on it.
Yeah.
Way too much time. I can't imagine how you look at those resumes and think that Willie Taggart is 28th. And trust me, I do not think Willie Taggart did a great job last year at all. How could anyone? But I also don't think it was all his fault. And the jury is still out, and we'll be deliberating a while before we know what Willie Taggart's tenure at Florida State is. I just think that's a ridiculous list really from top to bottom. But it's a list, right?
Yeah. Well, remember,
it's a list.
I will, not to defend this guy, there was that. It was an anonymous poll that somebody from CBS Sports did last year that, they asked coaches who they thought was the most overrated coach. And that was before, crashing into the side of the, brick facade of the beautiful Doak Campbell Stadium. And in Taggart, his peers said that they thought he was the most overrated. So maybe this columnist is just, pilfering other sort of concepts and opinions and trying to blend them into his own and make it seem original. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you look – I don't know. I mean, if I had like one game to win, like if I had one game to win or had one drive I needed to score on, I mean, literally like 16 of these people on this list I have no faith in. I mean, it's not like this is really like a
dude. It's less than that, right? What it really was, it was a pretty stark slap in the face of like, man, there aren't a lot of great coaches out there.
Yeah,
at least proven coaches.
Right.
Like literally, Dave Clawson is like 7th on that list.
Yeah.
That guy has never won anything.
No.
Well, actually, I don't know that. I don't know anything about his career other than he's been at Wake Forest, and he's, it's Wake Forest. But if the guy at Wake Forest is the 7th best coach, come on, man. And also, how in good heavens, and again, we all know that I'm not the biggest Jimbo Fisher fan on this show. How in good heavens do you have Dan Mullen ranked ahead of him?
Yeah. How's that possible? It's the recency bias nonsense. Like, they won 10 games last year. Florida A&M only won 9, so that's why you
know what I mean? Yeah, right. Like there was recency bias. They basically had the same record last year. One of them has a 29-game winning streak and a national championship on his resume.
Yeah.
You're gonna have him 5th? Oh, well, I mean, we lose the the Randy Sanders effect. Jimbo hasn't been the same since Randy Sanders left. Like, that's Jimbo Fisher's team. That was his creation that won 29 straight games. None of those other slappies, except for the top 2, have done anything remotely close to what Jimbo's done. And my man's 5th. All right.
Agree or disagree? Jorah is to Daenerys what Monk was to Jimbo.
Come on, man. I don't like that. It's a solid comparison. Yeah.
And I'm not in any way being disrespectful to the great legacy of Monk Bonassorte, what he's done at Florida St. Al. I didn't want to. It's just stupid because I'm like, I don't want to tweet it, but I only have like 2,000 people following me on Twitter, and there's 15,000 people listening to the show, so I probably should have done it vice versa. But yeah, I thought about that during Thrones. But anyhow, pivoting off, moving along.
Basically, what we're saying is that Jimbo certainly here needed an advisor that could tell him right from wrong, what to do, what not to do, and kind of be his
control his worst impulses.
The angel on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And Monk really was that. More than anyone will ever know, Monk was that person that was the angel on Jimbo's shoulder.
Yeah. By the way, Dave Clawson won 10. He took Fordham his first year at Fordham in 1999. They went 0-11. 3 years later, he took them to the quarterfinals of the Division I AA tournament. He won 10 games at Fordham one season. He won 11 games at Richmond. He won 10 games one season at Bowling Green. He has a career record of 118 and 115. So, an amazing head football coach.
3 games over 500.
Seventh best coach in the 2 biggest football conferences in the entire nation. All right, moving along now. Baseball. I had a really sad sort of come-to-Jesus moment with myself almost in the press box at Mike Martin Field at Dick Howser Stadium on Friday when they played Pitt in the opener. They got taken down 10-0. It was every bit as ugly as 10-0 sounds. I think hitters 4 through 9 went a combined 0 for 26, maybe 0 for 24. They had 9 strikeouts. I'm selling all my stock in Florida State baseball. They'll probably still make the tournament. They held steady. They're still number 23 in the D1 baseball top 25. Their RPI, they're somewhere in the mid-50s right now. They've got Jacksonville on a doubleheader today. Wednesday they'll play at Stetson. Then they have Richmond, 3 games set, I think. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And then the following weekend they'll finish things out at Louisville. It's this. The hitting is not reliable, man. I mean, I just think what happened against Pitt, to a certain degree, might be somewhat of an anomaly. Some people might say because Mike Bell obviously knows that batting order probably, somewhat to a good degree, but then he knows obviously Drew Parrish in and out and what Drew Parrish wants to do and was able to get to Drew early, and then the bullpen came in and then wheels came off. But they're going to be a 3 seed somewhere probably. They're going to play a 2 seed that's going to probably have a good frontline starter. And what's going to happen when Florida State's bats go up against a good frontline starter? I just don't see them scoring. And I don't know if – I still have faith in Drew Parrish, but it feels like they're going to have to win game 1 of their regional like 1-0, and Parrish is going to have to go 8 innings, 7 innings probably in that. And I don't know if that's the pathway to success is like 1-0, because you obviously leave yourself no sort of wiggle. The defense remains to be just much maligned, and I just don't know why, man. Mike Martin joked about it, or he wasn't even joking about it when he said, as a coach, you ask yourself, am I doing enough? And he said, yeah, we drill it enough, we practice it enough. I mean, Nander DeSadas went from shortstop to second base. Now he's got benched this past weekend in the games on Saturday and Sunday. So the offense is shaky. The starting pitching, other than Van Eyck, is shaky. There's just not a whole lot to feel good about. Thankfully, though, it looks like they probably will still get into the tournament. I don't know if they're going to get 40 wins, but at least it won't end in some sort of weird indignity of not even making the tournament, because they would really have to fall by the wayside. I don't know if they'll do it now. I just don't feel good about them going into a regional, playing a team that's got a somewhat good frontline starter and making it through 3 days of baseball with what they have limited-wise in the bullpen, and just having so many questions still offensively, man. They're still playing revolving door at first base with Nico Baldor and Cooper Swanson, and it's just I know it sounds very fatalistic, and this is them coming off winning the series, but that game Friday night just kind of gave me a glimpse of what's going to happen when they do play into a regional.
I mean, I agree.
All right. So
I would say, well, that was a lot. You had a mouthful there to talk about the baseball team. You watch them obviously live a lot more than I do, so I get it.
This is the most compelling thing going on right now, Corin. I know, the people say they don't care. I think maybe if we cared more about it, maybe other people would. I mean, I'm not trying
crazy.
to make you...
We do care about it. We care about it. We talk about it a lot. What I was going to say is, it's a big week for them. They can't screw around this week. They have 6 games this week. Yeah. All winnable games, obviously. They have a doubleheader against who? Stetson?
Jacksonville.
They have a single game against Stetson, then they have 3 games against Richmond, all at home. You need to win 5 of them. And then all of a sudden you're at 35 wins with still 1 series left and the ACC tournament. So 40 games is still within reach. The NCAA tournament would seem to be a lock, especially if you win one of the ones at Louisville. Now that's a hard ask because they're really good. Man, the Louisville baseball program, that might have been their best addition to the conference. That women's basketball, I mean, they're great. So you win one of those, you're looking at 35. You probably finish the regular season with 36, 37 wins, you would think. Your RPI will be not terrible. It won't be like precedent-setting bad to get into the tournament. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it won't be like there'll be no team with 140 RPIs ever made the tournament. They'll be somewhere in the 50s. Well, so they'll probably they seem to be in a good spot to make the tournament, but no, it's the same stuff all year, man. I didn't like seeing Parrish seemingly have, but you're due to have a bad outing. That happens. The offense was a little worrisome there on the first night. And Parrish not pitching well, but again, he could have thrown a no-hitter, they still wouldn't have won. If you don't score any runs. I do think it's a good sign. I know it's Pitt. It's not great, but Mendoza hit the tar out of the ball. He's starting to look like a top-flight prospect again. His numbers are great.
Yep.
Robbie Martin's numbers are really good. I think those are your 2 best hitters. Salvatore has been really good, especially from what we thought he was. He's had a really nice year, and J.C. Flowers had a nice year. So the offense isn't terrible. The freshmen, other than Martin, are struggling a lot. That's to be expected. You would have hoped they kind of would have turned some sort of corner by now. It doesn't seem like that's happened. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be really interesting because I can't remember a postseason that Florida State went into where they've had less expectation. They've only been on the road once in a regional since I've been covering this team for 11 years, and that was as a 1 seed up in Connecticut. Like somehow they had to go play up in Connecticut as a 1 seed.
Yeah.
They've never just been on the road for the regionals since I've been doing this. I think it's only happened like twice in the last 2 decades.
I know it happened. I think either in 05 or 06 they ended up going to Arkansas, and they didn't make it out of there.
Yeah, but I think that was a super regional.
Oh, actually, I know you're right. You're right. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, that was with Stephen Drew and Eddie Martinez Esteve.
Yeah.
Man, what a great hitter that guy was, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't field or run or anything, but holy moly could he hit.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think they've been to Athens. I know they've been to Athens once in a regional. Maybe they went somewhere else in the last 2 decades in a regional, but they're almost always at home. So it's going to be really interesting and kind of fun in my mind. I know it's kind of a bummer that Martin won't be able to go out at home. Well, hopefully, where I'm not rooting for him to lose in the regional, but at home. But, I think it's kind of neat that they'll be able to go on the road and just, see what happens. But to have zero expectations and maybe a little relaxed that, especially if they take care of, all they got to do is take care of business this week. They might lose 1 or 2 because it's baseball. You can't go 3-3 or 2-4 against this slate, or you really might be out of the tournament. So there is some pressure here. But that said, if they take care of business this week, then they made the tournament. So they're not going to have that indignity of, so they should kind of be relaxed, right? Nobody expects anything. They didn't have an all-time awful season that had their legendary head coach miss the tournament his final year. So just go and have fun and hope that Parrish and Van Eyck pitch well. And then you got a shot. Don't have a great shot because you're not a great baseball team. But you know what? There have been just okay baseball teams that have made it to Omaha. So it could happen, buddy. You can't give up yet. You know what, buddy? That 10-0 loss to Pitt might be the last loss they have this season.
Let's hope. I'd certainly hope so, man.
What if they finish this thing on like a 19-game winning streak?
I mean, that's the thing. That's why that 10-0 game was so sobering to me. It's just that's the beautiful thing about, to me, the baseball tournament. Like, I almost like the baseball tournament more than the basketball tournament. I know I'm crazy, and I'm totally in the minority on that. I love when they've got that, the bases loaded or whatever the channel they have during the tournament where they're just whipping back and forth all the different regionals and everything. It's just it's a grind, man. Like, getting out of a regional is a grind. A super maybe not as much, but then when you get to Omaha, and if you don't win it's a grind to win. You have to really be on your game for like a solid 26, 27 day stretch, and it's just hard to find. It's hard to imagine this team is going to keep that kind of sort of sustained momentum, man. And I know there hopefully will be some good juju coming down on Martin when they finally do get to a regional site, but I feel like it's going to be just such a big ask. The Pitt SID was sitting there, there's just nothing comes easy for Florida State. Even ground balls to the shortstop, I hold my breath, and she would just kind of laugh at me. She's like, "What?" She's like, "It's going to be an out." I'm like, "No." I'm like, nothing is a given with this team right now, and it's the lazy sort of hack-and-eyed transition out of this, Corey, is to talk about the future to a certain degree, and it's the threads keep going, obviously, on the baseball. People talk about Mike Bell should be the next coach because he won on Friday night. I don't know where those people went after they lost the next 2 games and surrendered 50 runs combined almost.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be meat. I see how it. I can't see how it wouldn't be meat, just from the pure human aspect of this, of who's going to walk in and tell him that it's not him. Like, who's going to do that? Like, David Coburn's not going to tell Mike Martin Jr., like, yeah, we're going to pass you up. They're not going to hire some dude from Connecticut to Skype Mike Martin Jr. and be like, hey, by the way, leave your key card under the door. Like, you're not going to be retained. I mean, it's going to be him. He's done a lot of great things, obviously, for Florida State. He's helped sustain the program. Like, the only thing that would make me yearn for a change, I don't even so much like his approach, is just there has to be a different kind of athlete or baseball player that somebody else would maybe appreciate, that for whatever reason, whether it's junior or 11, seems to have gravitated towards the last 10 years or so, that does not field well. I just don't know if it's the DNA of a baseball player to not field well. Like, can you not drill that enough? I'd be curious to see, like, who a guy like Doug Minkiewicz would recruit. I don't know if would he be part of the showcase circuit. Obviously, Mike Martin Jr. knows who to talk to, where to go, where to find the best prospects. But, almost to a certain, is there like a Willie Taggart-esque quality that we should maybe appreciate for baseball, that you don't get the guy that has the Evo shield on his elbow and his shin and the $5,000 DeMartini bat? Is there some junkyard dog aspect of players that are not being appreciated in the evaluation process? Because you watch, teams like Oregon State field cleanly and Mississippi State fields cleanly, and it's just how come Florida State battles for elite talent and has the same amount of scholarships to offer that everybody else does, but for whatever reason can never seem to find really just let's have a 2012-esque infield. I just said a year that they had that, but that just seems to be the anomaly. That's not the norm. That's what frustrates me almost more at this point than the hitting and stuff, because I feel like they can get runs, they can get hot sometimes, and Martin's approach does work by being patient and waiting for your pitches, but it's just the defensive aspect of things. The fact that when they do make an error, it always leads to more chaos. It's never all right, we put two people on, let's just roll a pair and get out of this. It never works out. That was the frustrating thing about watching things come undone on Friday. And I'm done talking about baseball. I'm sorry, everybody.
I have a theory on the fielding. I think I've said it on here before, and I don't know. It's just a theory. I think the first thing they're looking at when they recruit a kid is the bat, which I also don't think is an anomaly. I don't think that's just a Florida State specific way to recruit. Right. I think most college baseball teams probably look at the bat first, and then what position can he play. I just think that's natural. I think they care more about the bat than anything else, because I think you think, okay, we can teach the other stuff. We can drill it into them that how to field, at least how to be competent. But we can't teach that bat speed, or we can't teach that raw power to right center, whatever they're looking for. I think that's I think that's the way they recruit. But I will say this: I went and did a story with Meat maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, where I went to one of those showcases with him to just see. I just wanted to write a story about baseball recruiting, how it works, because it's not like they go see a bunch of high school games. Yeah. They have to go to these showcases and look. And watching him look, the thing that he really cares about when it comes to defense is catching. And it's not the things like, oh, does he have a quick release? That's something. But we were watching a kid that was a pretty high level recruiter, a guy that he had been told he should look at. And he watched him catch, I think, an inning or 2 innings. And he's like, yeah, man, I don't like how he receives the ball. Look how weak his hands are. Every time a pitch comes, it's pushing his hand down. He's not sticking it. He can't frame it. And at 18 or 17, whatever that kid's age was at the time, he's like, he's got to be better at that. Then, I don't know that he can play catcher for me, because every time he catches the ball, the pitch is moving his glove instead of his glove sticking there. And that's the stuff that obviously a lay person like myself would never even think to worry about. So I do think it matters to him. I just think,
you can't have it all. You can't have
do what?
You can't have it all, right? It's fair.
No, I think more than anything they want a great hitter. That's what they're looking for, is the elite bats, because it is college baseball. You do get aluminum bats. But yeah, it would be nice if they could also find elite gloves, like Devin Travis, Sherman Johnson was pretty much a walk-on, but those kind of infielders, they've had them in the past. It'd be nice if they could find a couple, because it's such a great luxury to have. When you don't hold your breath every time there's a ground ball. One other thing that's weird about this team so far is, so I looked it up in the stats. They've committed 63 errors, which is a ton. The opponents have only committed 32. That's a low number for opponents.
Because they keep striking out.
Well, but Florida State pitchers have more strikeouts than opposing pitchers have on Florida State hitters. Yeah. They strike out a ton too. They still committed 63 errors. But to only have 32, that's less than an error a game, which in college baseball is kind of rare. The opponent's fielding percentage against Florida State is .980. So they're not. What that means to me, Aslan, is once they get into the postseason, it's going to be a little regression to the mean, and their opponents are going to start booting it 4 or 5 times a game.
Yeah. Can you see how many unearned runs they've given up?
It's 30 something, right?
I don't know. I feel like I feel like whenever they make an error, someone comes and scores. Like those innings stay, when they give people extra outs, man, they end up always paying for it, I feel like. But anyhow, I'm selling all my stock. I hope the best. I hope I'm wrong. There's probably nothing on this show I want to be more wrong about. Trust me, I want to go to Omaha. I want to film Brady and Corey brushing their teeth in their master suite in downtown Omaha as we get ready to win the first ever College World Series title for the program. But I just don't know.
They've given up 34 unearned runs this year.
On how many errors?
On 63.
All right, so maybe not as corresponding or not.
That's still a lot of unearned runs, man.
Yeah,
it's not as many as it probably feels like, but that's still that's a ton of unearned runs. That's crazy. That's one unearned run a game almost.
Oh, hey, Corey, bonus football talk before we let Michael Langston talk about Malachi Wideman, and then I guess we'll come back and Thrones'in around, although we're at like the 40-minute mark right now, so after
that's
Langston,
fine,
we'll be well over 50 minutes. But we'll keep we'll Thrones'in around. Corey said so. How about this Austin Droogsma kid getting picked up by the Giants? Bonus football talk, everybody.
The shot putter, right?
Yeah.
What are you, a shot putter?
Yeah.
And a good one, like an all-conference type, all-American type shot putter.
Yeah.
Who was a pretty well thought of football recruit too when he got here, right?
Yeah.
That they thought he might do both, and then he stuck with shot put.
Correct.
That might have something to do with the guy that was coaching offensive line at the time. Like if your heart's not really in playing football, which obviously his wasn't, and he was on a track scholarship. But if your heart's not really into playing college football, man, that would be not maybe the most fun coach to go play for.
Not everybody will stay, but those who remain will become champions.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, he became a ACC champion in track.
Yeah. I don't know. I butchered the field portion. I butchered the Bo Schembechler quote, whatever it was. But yeah, he was a 3-star guard coming out of high school in Gulf Breeze. They had him pegged at 6'4", 305 back then. Suppose he had offers from Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Mississippi State, just to name a few. Alabama did not offer him, jerks. But yeah, man, he was a legitimate.
So he's in the Giants training camp, right? Or he got an invite?
Yeah, yeah.
What if he ends up being like a 12-year NFL All-Pro, and the dude was just toiling around on your campus throwing things 100 yards away from where you practiced? The best lineman that you had was out here just whistling discus and throwing shot puts and whatever else big, huge throwers do. And he could have been, been a road grader for Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook could have won 2 Heismans. Yeah. But instead he stayed on the field, on the track and field.
He's now up to 345, 6'4", finished 7th at Nationals last year in shot put. They're a bit of a bittersweet note because apparently to make room for him, they had to waive some players, and one of them was Yukimi Eligwe.
Oh, they're already waiving players in May?
Yeah, man.
The NFL is just good. It's hard to keep up with.
It is. It's brutal. But
imagine being waived in May.
I don't know, man. Well,
had Eligwe ever played? Had he ever played in the NFL?
Eligwe?
Yeah,
I think so. I think he was on a roster last year. I think I heard his name said like on a telecast one time too, man.
He was a guy that played a bit I think he was a true freshman in 13.
Yeah, there's another linebacker that, gosh, it would have been nice to have, a linebacker here the last X amount of years.
Did he get in trouble? I don't remember why he left Florida State.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? I don't know if you saw that on War Chant. Somebody started a thread just about me.
I did see it. Yeah, I read the first page, but it's taken a life of its own. It's still positive, I assume, right?
Well, and I just saw it because I was pretty busy this weekend. I should probably be on the site more than I was this weekend. But there was somebody that posted about, and I didn't read through all the comments. I didn't even know what it was about, but I guess it was about the way those videos I did with Gene about the recruiting classes and my kind of just my recall of all those players and teams from those years. And it is, I can still remember like how many yards Sammy Smith rushed for against East Carolina in 1987. I can't remember why Eligwe was kicked out of school or why he left the program. And that was 5 years ago. Oh yeah. And it's my job. What the world? Why did he leave?
I like that.
Yeah, that's not quite a humble brag. That's actually the exact opposite of a humble brag.
I think it was violation of team rules.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was grades. I think it was violation of team rules. But yeah, 2017 he started a game for the Chiefs, played in 14 games, and then last year he played in 10 games for the Giants. So
all right. And now he's already waived.
Yeah, but he'll get picked up,
Right.
I'm sure. I mean, he's 6'2", 239, and he's 25 years old, man. So world's his oyster.
Dang, Skippy.
Oh, also, another thing to mention, somebody there's 2 tweets I need to probably read here because I asked them to ask us a question for Renegade Express last week I didn't get to. One of them I'll answer, but back to the forum. Somebody commented about apparently there's a club lacrosse team at Florida State, and they made the club lacrosse tournament, so he wanted me to give those guys a shout-out. So there it goes. There it was. Shout out.
I think they're traditionally a pretty good club lacrosse team, like one of the better ones in the country.
Yeah.
I think.
I remember the first time I ever saw an iPod was like in 2003 at a club lacrosse game. My buddy's roommate played lacrosse, and I actually was like the DJ. So I'm like, what is this thing? They're like, it's an iPod. I'm like, what does it do? They're like, all the music is on there. I'm like, what? It blew my mind. But yeah, so
isn't that crazy? Like that was not that long ago.
Yeah.
It would just be absurd to somebody say, "Oh, who was the guy in that movie that did it?" And you're like, "Man, I don't know."
Yeah.
We'll have to go to Blockbuster and look at the credits or something. And now it's literally on our phone. It's 20 seconds away. Yeah. Not even. It's 4 seconds away.
Actually, I should probably look this up because apparently they played earlier tonight in the first round against number 5 Arizona State. They're a 12 seed. It's a 16-team playoff. Let me see here. Stand by. I'm going to try to look this up.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so they're currently underway still. It's 4-2 FSU with 6:54 left in the second. I have no idea if there's 3 quarters or 3 periods or 4 quarters or how this all works, but the good guys are winning right now as we record this. Shout out to Luke Kendall. He scored to make it 4-2 for Florida State. Let's go. Let's do this, guys.
Let's go, Luke. Let's hope we didn't jinx it by actually saying the score in the middle of a show, but we're pulling for you. Those Sun Devils don't have anything.
Yeah, correct. They're
weak this year. I've actually been keeping up with Arizona State's lacrosse team, and they lost a lot from last year. So Florida State, I think Arizona State was overseeded. Like, I think they were seated way too high just on past accomplishments. So I think Florida State's going to have their way with them.
Oh, and last thing, I promise this time, this is the 5th last thing I've said. Somebody tweeted this or put it on the message board. It's an old clip from a Fox football telecast with Summerall and Madden, a.k.a. the best to ever do it. And Burt Reynolds was in attendance at the game, and Madden circled him on the telestrator. He was like, hey, Pat, you know who this guy is? He's like, I do. And Madden's like, you coached him at Florida State, didn't you? And Pat's like, I sure did. I didn't know that. Pat Summerall.
Wait a second.
Pat Summerall on this telecast said that he coached Burt Reynolds at Florida State. But he's not in any media guide of having ever been a coach on staff at Florida State. He's from Lake City. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah. But I thought Summerall would have been in the NFL in like the mid-50s. Like that's when he played. So I didn't know that he was coaching too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he started his career with the Lions in 1952 and then played for the Chicago Cardinals for the next 4 years, I think it is. Somebody on the message board, I think, apparently said that he thinks that he might have coached him he was an instructor at this comes from Seminole Hawk 1956. He sounds legit. I do recall that Summerall was an instructor at FSU's football clinics of the 50s and 60s.
Oh, all right.
So maybe Pat Summerall is like one of those AAU hanger-oners, just trying to be like, oh, yeah, I taught that kid his jump shot, he
was actually he was actually Burt Reynolds' handler.
Yeah.
Like all the offers of what school he was going to go to came through Pat.
Yeah, what an innovator.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. And for people that don't know, Bill Parcells also coached at Florida State for a season.
So did Don James.
Yeah, well, Bill Parcells is a bigger name than Don James, but
Don James.
I think Bowden might have coached with one. I think he might have coached with Don James.
Yeah,
as an assistant. I mean.
Yeah. Okay, Michael Langston will talk about Malachi Wideman for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to Thrones'in around. Keep it here. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, all Noles, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
No rest for the weary, Michael. It's a Sunday, but Florida State getting some good news. A ring, ring, ring. Break it down. Who committed to Florida State on this Sunday?
Well, it's on Sunday. They got Malachi Wideman, a talented wide receiver from Sarasota, Florida, at Sarasota High School or Sarasota Riverview High School, and certainly a big pickup for him because they haven't had a receiver in this class yet. So, adding a premier guy like him that can play both football and basketball. He plans to do both at FSU. He's a pretty good basketball player, so you kind of get it from both ends where it's a solid pickup from both ends. Can do a lot on the hoops, on the court, and then also on the football field. Very athletic guy, very dynamic as far as speed and everything you look for as far as in this offense that Browns and Dugans and Taggart want in this offense. So certainly it's a huge pickup for FSU to get Malachi in the boat.
I don't know how much of a surprise this was. We're trying to do our spring tour, and I know you definitely wanted to catch up with Malachi, so I think you kind of had a good feeling. I know you're waiting to hear from him as you guys have a discussion, but ultimately, what were sort of the vibes that you were getting from him about Florida State? I assume that he visited before.
Yeah, he visited for the spring game, had a really good visit. He visited with his mom. His mom's a big FSU. I think she was a former athlete there, but I'm not 100% on that. But she was a big fan of Florida State, so she loves Florida State. He loved Florida State growing up. So you kind of felt the vibes that, it was going to end up, in a positive way for FSU. He liked it a lot. He liked the conversations he had with Browse about the offense and how he's going to be used and just, the up tempo. He really, really connected with all that stuff. But I think he really liked also the culture that FSU is doing, what they're planning on doing as far as turning things around and looking like a different team than what people saw last year. And I think he's buying into all that stuff and feels really comfortable with them. And I think it was actually, I thought it would happen last weekend, but he had a basketball tournament, so he couldn't do it then. So they got it worked out today. He's not one of those kids that tweets a lot or does that stuff. So, Malachi kind of, retweeted our breaking news on his own commitment, which was kind of funny. I've never seen that done before, but that's just kind of him. He knows where he wants to go. FSU is the place, and certainly a major addition for them. But I actually thought he was going to do it last weekend, but it happened today. But I definitely knew it was going to happen soon. I kind of prepared you and Gene and Ira and all these, everyone that, hey, this thing could happen soon. So, be prepared. But I don't think the timing didn't really surprise me. And certainly the school, choice didn't surprise me because I think his mom had actually visited FSU for a junior day earlier this year. Malachi wasn't there, but she visited for him. So that kind of told you where this thing was trending, for a while. But I think most people that were kind of had a finger and pulse on this one kind of knew FSU was going to win this one.
I know recruiting by and large is definitely a team effort when it comes to the staff, the coaching staff, that is. How much of this, though, would you put on the shoulder of Ron Dugans and maybe Florida State fans starting to see the impact of just how good of a recruiter he really is?
Well, I think Ron did a really good job when Malachi visited, for the spring game. He got a chance to get to know him, what he's like as a person, personality-wise, scheme-wise, what he's going to be used. I think the big guy, though, in this recruitment's been Raymond Woody. He's been the guy that's headlined this thing for a while. He's the main recruiter, did an exceptional job here. Did a great job as far as getting FSU's foot in the door, and then kind of the offense, Dugan's Browse kind of took over from there. But Raymond was the big one as far as putting all this together and laying the blueprint and really getting FSU in a good place with Malachi before he got a chance to see FSU in depth. So I think first of all, you have to give Woody a big credit on this one, but also Dugans, because if he doesn't like Dugans or he doesn't connect with him, all that work doesn't really mean anything. And so I think it was a total team effort with everyone with Taggart, to the culture that Taggart, is building there. And then with Dugan's, his connection and, being a position coach and, and how comfortable he feels around him. And then obviously Woody did a tremendous job, as I mentioned, just really having a guy that he can come to for anything, just, anything's on his mind, he can talk to at any time. And just a guy he feels comfortable with, because it's more than just, everyone thinks it's like, oh, you're a position coach, but it's more than that. It's a lot to do with your comfort around all the staff members, or a lot of the staff members. So I think it was a team effort, but I think Raymond Woody was the guy that led the charge here.
Malachi Wideman's a 4-star recruit, 6'5", 190 is what he's listed in on the Rivals.com database. So I guess, obviously a lot of folks will start making assumptions just based on his measurables, Michael, but just what kind of wide receiver is he? Is he a deep ball threat? Is he a one-trick kind of pony, or just how developed do you think his game is, looking at the tape that you've been able to take a peek at?
Well, I think he has ways to go as far as different parts of his game. He's not a one-trick pony, but he's not fully developed either yet. I mean, he's got a really good speed, really athletic guy that can do a lot of. You can use him inside, you can use him outside. So in that way, you can use him in a lot of different avenues as far as how you attack defenses. Route running, he can get a little cleaner in that. I mean, more precise with that stuff. He can be more dynamic as far as, I think he'll be more dynamic once the route running and the technique catches up with the athletic ability of what I see on film when I watch him. But certainly the high skill level is what you see, and but the fine tuning is what we now have to see as far as when he gets to FSU, what Dugans can do with him, what Browse can do with him, and developing him. But certainly a lot of high potential and skill there, as far as that. But route running, you want to see that a little bit better. He can get a little bit better as far as speed wise, but his hands are very good. He's got very good hands. He can do a lot of different things.
And as you said, I mean, he's a legitimate basketball prospect as well. So his athleticism is definitely off the charts. And speaking of the charts, Florida State up now to number 5 in the nation for the 2020 recruiting cycle. Right now, they're number 5 behind Miami, Bama, LSU, and Clemson. So making a big stride by getting Wideman on board. Who were some of the primary competition, do you think, when it came down to Malachi's choice here between Florida State?
I'd probably say the in-state schools like, Florida and Miami. Main one was Florida that we heard, but I think, I'm not downgrading those teams, but
do it. Downgrade them.
I don't think there was a lot of competition here, just because there was so many connections to Florida State. With his mom loving FSU, with what FSU's doing on the basketball court, he liked that too. What FSU's doing with their culture inside their locker room. There was just so many connections to FSU that it was just, I don't think there was really a close second, in my opinion, just because there were so many things that he loved about FSU. Plus, he grew up liking them, so it was kind of a match made in heaven just on everything that was clicking for them in this recruitment. But I guess if I had to pick one team, I'd pick Florida because he visited there, but. I think it was mainly, the main competition was mostly the in-state schools.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant Low Carb Beer for the Seminole Soul. Back to Aslan and Corey.
The Tuesday megacast of Wake Up War Chant rolls along. Thanks to Michael Langston. He and I will be in South Pinellas County later on Tuesday afternoon, catching up with Jayon McCluster, who's a linebacker that committed to Florida State last week, and I think his name is Lawrence Toafili, is a running back. So this is sort of my backyard. I'll be in Pinellas County, kind of home-ish. But the way we broke it up, I can't go to the beach while I'm back home. Thanks, Michael. But then we'll go down to Sarasota. We'll have a feature on Malachi Wideman, and then we'll make our way to Orlando later in the week. And I think Damori Tate's the guy that I'm going to do a feature on, but I'm not 100% sure. For whatever reason you want somebody else, give me a shout-out. I'll see what I can do. Oh, and this was the tweet that somebody tweeted at us. I'm like, if you got a question, let us know. Somebody asked about moving Nasruddin. We'll talk about that maybe later in the week. Philip, shout out for your tweet. But Matt M. asked, what's with the 2 different names, Aslan? Hodges or Hudjavandi? They don't even sound the same. if you're new to the program, I used to work in TV, and my first job, they wanted me to change my entire name, but one of the guys who helped me get the job was so bothered by that he fought to keep my name, and the compromise was they would let me keep my first name but make me change my last name, and everybody called my dad Haji growing up, so Hodges kind of happened, and I haven't figured out a good way to change my Twitter handle, and maybe one of these days I will. And with that said, let's Thrones it around, Corey, shall we?
Hey, real quick, just wanted to say, his last name's Wideman, right? Malachi Wideman?
Yes.
He's from Riverview High School, which happens to be the same high school as one Shanna,
Shanna Clark.
formerly,
She's still Shanna Clark in my book.
Shanna Clark Bottingino, but formerly Shanna Clark, Brady's mom, Corey's wonderful ex-wife. She also she was a Riverview Ram.
Yeah.
So she was excited to see that one of her own is now a big-time Florida State superstar.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know if I'm talking out of school saying this, but apparently Malachi works with Adrian McPherson on the side. And I think we're actually going to bump into old AD when we're down in Sarasota later this week. So maybe I'll try to get him for a one-on-one feature or maybe something for the podcast. But that would be interesting. He certainly had an interesting career at Florida State. Okay, yeah, he was another guy, right? That they thought was going to do both. Yes,
because he was an incredible, but he was like the Mr. Florida basketball.
I know he was Mr. Florida football. I don't know if he did both of them though.
I think he did. I think he pulled the both. I think he pulled the double sweep. He was the Mr. Florida in football and basketball. I could be completely wrong because it didn't happen in the 90s or late 80s, so I don't really remember it. But I thought he was Mr. Florida in both.
He was.
But he was really good either way. He was supposed to be really good.
He was named Mr. Football and Mr. Basketball in 2000. Look at that.
Hey, yo. See, people, there's a reason I have an ego. It's because I know everything. By the way, so I didn't realize this when I got on that thread, and I was only on it for a few minutes. I only saw a couple comments. But, I guess people really think that I have, this super ego when I say everything, I'm the best part of this show, and, obviously more people like me than you and all that stuff that, I thought I was the sarcasm was so thick that you couldn't mistake it. But apparently people think I do have I do have an enormous head, but that's literally, physically, my head is way too big. But no, I don't. I'm more self-deprecating than most anyone I've ever met.
I just don't like how everybody was trying to prop you up by pushing Ira down. That kind of hurt my feelings.
Well, look, man, the people know what they're talking about. I will say that. Obviously, I know I'm better than Ira. I don't know if that means I have a huge ego. It just means I know I'm better than that guy. I don't know at what. Well, I'm a better drinker than Ira. Ira doesn't drink a whole lot. I think I'd probably be better to have a drink with.
Okay.
Because, Ira can be, he'll drink his Diet Coke and probably be working. But not this guy. This guy will drink his Mick Ultra and have a good old time. Anyway, and also Ira doesn't watch Game of Thrones, and he makes fun of it repeatedly.
He doesn't. 4 down, 2 to go?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
What's my boy Gendry thinking? Arya now just saved the world, and you want her to be lady of some no-name castle? The gusto was beautiful. I almost got a little bit choked up because I'm like, I would love to go see my ex-girlfriend and say something like that to her now and win her back. But she's Arya Stark, man. She just killed the Night King, bro. She's not going to go be the lady of I don't even know the name of the place she's going. It's a no-name castle.
Yeah, I don't think Arya didn't strike me as someone that wanted to be domesticated. Oh, yeah, let's start a family. Yeah. After I just saved the planet because I'm the biggest badass in this realm. Yeah, let me go have some of your kids.
So
that's what I want to do. That's why I trained all these years, and I can be different people. So I can go marry you and live off in some faraway land and never be heard from again.
Was not a fan of the Jaime and Lady Brienne arc, or however you want to say it. It went up and down and around and whatever.
Yeah.
But, dude, the sexual tension between Sansa and my boy the Hound injected straight into my veins. Did you feel it? Does she have something for my boy the Hound? She's my queen, man, and that's my dude. I'm like, there's no way that could happen, could it?
Man, well, hey, it's all on the table at this point, right? We just saw Brienne with the Kingslayer, whatever his nickname is.
Yeah, Kingslayer.
I can't like the thing that bothered me. I'm not one of those people that is just going to rip the show nonstop, because you know what? It's given me 100 hours of enjoyment, 85 hours of enjoyment. It's been an awesome show, and it's been really fun. There have been some duds of episodes, because that's what happens. This was one. I said I didn't really like the one last week with the big battle, but I knew it had to happen, and it did try to be epic at least. This one, there was just so many things I didn't like about it, but I don't want to be that person, because gosh darn it, we're doing a whole segment every week on this show because it's so awesome, and I hate being one of those nerds that all they do is rip the thing that they love.
Well, you're not alone. A lot of people seem to be. I love the episode. I thought it's laid everything out. I think Cersei gets thrown off the throne next week, and then the following week is when we're going to figure out how this all going to settle in. What didn't you like about it? Maybe I didn't like the Gendry thing. I thought that just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, come on, man, have you not been reading this room? Have you not been watching the show? You thought she's gonna marry you, and then the Brienne and Jamie thing was just so. It just complete, and I'm not going to even talk about the physical appearance of either of the characters. That has it's not been on any of our radars. They've known each other now for 4 or 5 seasons. Not once have they pushed or even made that feel like a storyline. That this is a possibility. Are you
not
crazy?
Once.
Absolutely, they have.
No. They had a healthy respect for each other because of the way they fought. He saved her life. I think she saved his life. They had a really healthy respect as friends. He looked at her as an equal, as a battler, as a knight. It was never oh man, I can't wait to get some of that. It's never been part of their DNA, I thought, of their relationship. And then all of a sudden, Tyrion asked her that question, and it's well, I guess I got to go do my duty and make sure she doesn't die one. Right. It just I never felt it at all. And then to flip it, all of a sudden he leaves and leaves her crying. They're that invested now that she's crying like she's some, domesticated wife that doesn't want her husband. I mean, she's a warrior too.
She's a knight.
She should be going to King's Landing. The whole thing just was. It was a bizarre. And it happened so quickly. They were together. They were together again. He made fun. He talked about it with his brother, and then 2 minutes later, he's getting on a horse and riding out of town. The whole arc of the relationship happened. Of that part of the relationship happened in 12 minutes.
Well,
I don't know why they felt the need to do it. Why did we need that?
Well, because he's got to make a choice. He tried to redeem himself and fight on the side of the living, but now he's going back to Cersei and admits that he's.
No, but why did we need Brienne in it at all? She'd already had an awesome moment because she was knighted.
Well, then how is he going to then what's the plot device to turn Jamie back to his, his negative proclivity, his negative tendencies?
Well, just that he's going back to save his sister, I guess, or kill her. Who knows for sure? Yeah. But that his sister was brought up. But so we're supposed to think he's choosing between Cersei or Brienne? Or Brienne? Am I saying it right? Brienne?
Brienne. I mean, it's the choice between good and evil, man. And
but he could have made that without having relations with Brienne. He still was on the good side. He still would have been leaving her. It still would have been sad, but he was leaving a compadre, a fellow knight, a fellow battler, somebody he went to war with and almost died with, not somebody he slept with. I just didn't like it. It felt completely out of the blue to me. I never thought in a million years they would do that. Even when he followed her, I was like, well, where's he going? Does he got to pee? He's certainly not going to do that.
Man, she was smitten with him when I forgot.
Of course she was smitten with him, but when the other way, again, I didn't want to say anything about the physical appearances, but the other way is something that I never felt. They never presented that as even him being remotely interested in it.
Yeah.
Not even like Sansa and the Hound. They've presented that more than they did Jamie and Brienne. So yeah, it just wasn't. It was. I don't know. It was just cringy to me.
Well, he got jealous of Tormund and all that. I mean, I don't know. It was either him or Tormund and she obviously
Tormund,
wasn't
man.
interested in Tormund, so
I like Tormund.
everyone likes Tormund. Who doesn't like
Yeah,
Tormund?
why couldn't it be? That's the one that made sense. I feel bad for him.
I do too. But then he got a pretty good consolation prize. You
Yeah,
know what I
guess.
don't like is the amount of people. I know a lot of stuff is just being memes and just being funny, but the amount of people that are upset about the freaking wolf, like John leaving the wolf. Where's the wolf? I love the wolf. And people loving their dogs just become such a absolute ubiquitous thing in American culture that I just can't stand. Dog moms, dog dads, my dog is my child. Like, people legitimately upset that Jon Snow didn't take the wolf with him. The wolf belongs to the North. He's going to the South to fight a war. Like, he did the good thing. Like, oh, you didn't even pet him goodbye. He's a jerk, Jon Snow. I hate him now. Loosen up, people.
Yeah, I mean, and that wolf is around once a season. Like, I'd forgotten all about dire wolves until he showed up a couple episodes ago. So yeah, I wasn't that doesn't. But also, I haven't read the books. I understand they're a pretty big part of the books. Maybe they had trouble making them like realistic for the screen, so they haven't been such a big part of the show. So I guess that I get it that the people that read the books might be a little upset that he's just completely banishes them. But yeah, overall, I thought it was okay. Again, just the battle stuff. Some of it just, again, like, she's flying around. She can't see the ships.
See, people, I can't get upset about. I mean, people, I understand what you're saying, but like, it's as a fantasy show. Like, I mean, not everything is literal and geometrically and spatially correct. But I get it. Yeah, they got blindsided on the open sea, and she's, a mile in the air on a dragon. I get it. That's
odd, right? Like, I just, there's too much of that stuff, and then you're watching it. And I know that it's a fantasy show, so should we all take it with a grain of salt? But we live in that fantasy, so we want it at least to kind of make sense in the context of what we watch and the story we've been presented for 10 years. And like, why didn't Cersei at the end just open fire on all the people in front of her?
Yeah,
she's like what's her name was right there. The Khaleesi was right there, and you had all those bows and arrows. Why didn't you, instead of after you did what you did and chopped the head off? Why didn't you just open fire on the 30 people that were there? Yeah. Anyway.
Right. So that scene, let me talk about that scene, and then one thing people aren't talking about, and then obviously the one thing everyone's talking about.
Right.
The stupidest thing from that scene when they went to the gates of King's Landing was just like Tyrion right now is Ed Norton in Rounders. Like, he's just losing and bringing nothing but L's to everybody around him. Like, what was he thinking? Trying to make some sort of heartfelt plea to Cersei, like, I know you're not a monster. Bro, she literally blew up a church. She blew up a church with, like, your nephew in it. Not your nephew, but, like, obviously your nephew's wife. Like, when she blew up the freaking Sept of Bael or whatever with all the wildfire. Like, I know you're not a monster. Dude, she wants to kill you. She sent somebody to try to kill you at the Battle of Blackwater. You're trying to save her and her castle. She tried to have somebody kill you. I know you're not a monster. And you're going to make some sort of heartfelt, like, that was the stupidest part to me. And I'm not trying to bash the show and the writers, but it's like, what, that was going to, that he was just going to play to her hard and, she's going to give up everything and it's going to be a peaceful resolution. Like, I don't know what they could have done there, but him walking up and trying to be like, I know you. You're better than this. That was freaking ludicrous.
Same thing. It's like, what show has he been watching?
Yeah.
Like, there were so many elements of this show, and we're doing it. I said I wasn't going to do it, but we're doing it, of this particular episode that, to me, don't fit with the whole theme of the show and the flow of the show and what we've watched for so long. It's just complete pivots from Jaime doing what he did and then bouncing for Cersei for some reason. Even though she just sent somebody to try to kill him, he cares enough to go back and try to apparently save her or maybe kill her. Who knows? To that, yeah, man, Tyrion's supposed to be the smartest guy on the planet. That's what he gets by on is how clever he is, and they're making him a buffoon in this season.
Yeah,
like from the fact that he thought Cersei was going to have her people come and help, to the fact that he walked to the bottom of the wall to think he was going to, tug at her heartstrings. Man, she ain't got no heart. She certainly didn't have any strings for you to tug. I mean, that was nuts that was even a possibility, that he risked his life to approach. Anyway, just the whole thing. I am excited because of the groundwork that's been laid over these many years. I am excited for the final 2 episodes. These previous 2 episodes don't have me really fired up about how good it's going to be. I hope, especially this last one, to me, I hope this was like just the bridge show.
Absolutely.
And it was hard.
Yes.
It felt like something that all of it, like they're essentially playing drinking games. I mean, Game of Thrones has never struck me as a drinking game, an asshole type of environment. You know what I mean? It hasn't, or whatever the drinking game is that kids play these days. They're not playing quarters or pong. Not pong. What is it called?
Beer pong. Yeah.
Beer pong. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Not the real pong from the 70s. That's not really the Game of Thrones feel as drinking games. But they were doing that. It was just all it all seemed not of that show, of that it just seemed an episode without a home.
They just beat the dead, man. They just won the battle for life, man. They got to have some sort of weird.
Yeah, I get it. It didn't feel I don't know, it just didn't feel like it belonged. Maybe if it was written better or if different stuff had happened in the party scene, it would have resonated more with me. It just didn't feel right to me. Right. But again, I don't care because the show is awesome.
It is.
I get these 2 episodes haven't been great. You know what? Not every Breaking Bad episode was a home run.
Correct.
Not every Wire episode was a home run. Some of the stuff in the 5th season of The Wire is just batshit crazy.
Would you stop cursing, man? Making my life difficult.
Sorry, folks. I just figure, here's what I think about this part. If you're listening to Thrones'in It Out, is that what we're calling it, or Thrones'in It Up there?
It out there.
Okay. If you watch this show, then you've seen a lot worse than me saying batshit.
You did it again, you jerk.
Sorry, but you don't have to bleep that out. They watch Game of Thrones. They don't.
I don't know. I really wish we could curse. Of all, there's so
sorry.
many things that are changing in this world, but God forbid you curse on television or a radio show, and that's just, we can't have that happen.
Well, again, I just figured if somebody watches Game of Thrones, they won't be sensitive to me saying a bad word. And I apologize because some people might listen to this. I wouldn't think they'd listen to this with kids in the car because it is adult-themed, the show. I mean, the Game of Thrones is adult themed, so I don't know that they'd want to their kids hearing people talk about an adult themed show, but I apologize for that. Either way, the show's awesome. It's been one of my favorite TV experiences of all time. I hate fantasy stuff. I don't watch any other fantasy stuff. I never read the books. I just got hooked to this show right away, and it's been an awesome 7 or 8 years. I hope the last 2 episodes are incredible. I hope George R.R. Martin helped write some of it. They went to him for some advice maybe on these last 2 episodes because if the last episode is awesome,
Corey, these are everything that's happened in like the last 4 episodes, I think, and even going back to season 7 has nothing to do with like the books. Like they're beyond the books.
No, I get that, but I think they also knew how the book was going to end. He's always known that, and he told them before. I think I remember this. They had a conversation about how do you think it'll all play out? How do you think the book will end? And they had the answer he wanted. Or maybe they had the answer he wanted about who Jon Snow's parents were.
That's what it was.
But I also think he has talked about how they want because he's got to still write the books, that the ending of this show will be part of his vision, I think.
Okay.
Either way, it should be because my man's vision was awesome. Now he apparently doesn't write anymore, but this world that he created is pretty awesome and pretty unique and pretty fun. And I hope, fun might not be the right word, but you know what I mean. It's entertaining. So I hope they go to him for the final 2 episodes, and he has some say. I mean, I can't imagine that he's going to write a book that's completely different to how this thing ends. Like he's going to have somebody else on top. You know what I mean? I think there'll be some common ground that the producers and that he find for how this series should end. So I would think that's the case anyway. But yeah, I just hope if the last episode is awesome and incredible, I'm not gonna really even remember the 4th episode. It won't matter. All the nerds that are complaining, and I guess I'm one of those nerds, it won't matter to us. But either way, even if the next 2 episodes, in my opinion, are duds, it's still been an awesome ride. I've had a really fun time. Thanks, everyone. Just like Lost. I didn't like the last episode of Lost. I loved the show.
Well, there's only 2 things I want to talk about, but I feel like you almost just ended the show there.
No, go.
Well, one of them's more rhetorical, and then the other one we can maybe dive into a little bit more. But the rhetorical thing was I thought the best bit of dialogue, or the most compelling bit of dialogue in that entire show, was the stuff from Sir Davos talking about, like, who the hell is the Lord of Light? Like, what did he want? He comes and helps us out, and he just goes away. He doesn't give us any sign of what's next or what he wants. Like, that whole angle of, like, I guess it's maybe like too deep inside baseball or too deep inside Game of Thrones, and I don't know enough about it because I didn't read the books, and I'm never going to read the books. Don't ask me to read the books. I don't care about the books.
You don't read.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that, like, that played the Lord of Light brought Jon Snow back to life. Lord of Light bought them enough time to keep the castle somewhat, I guess, manageable amidst the siege, because they did have the lit barricade moat that kind of kept some of that army on the outside. The fact that the Red Lady sort of coached up Arya to go ahead and kill the Night King, like, the fact that was, and obviously Davos thought that, that was crazy. It's blood magic. It's evil. It's, she's a witch, all that sort of stuff. The fact that, like, that played a part in keeping humanity alive, and then it's kind of gone away now. It's like, oh, yeah, it helped save humanity, and now it's whatever. People still don't believe the old gods, the new gods. I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, yeah, like, how are they going to button that up? I guess they buttoned it up by her just dying, and, they lived, and that's all the Lord of Light wants, I guess, was just to keep the everlasting night or the long night from never happening. But I thought that was curious. But then obviously the biggest part of the show was Jon letting his family in on the secret of his lineage, which is the fact that he's not the son of Ned. He's, Rhaegon Targaryen and Lyanna Stark's son. He's not a bastard. He actually has the inside track, or the most legitimate right to the Iron Throne. And then Daenerys obviously wanting him to keep that a secret because she's so power hungry. And then kind of the evil, sinister way she cuts things off between them. Well, they're making out, and he's like, "It's my aunt I'm making out with. I can't do this." But she's a Targaryen. That's not different. That's common to them. It's kissing cousins. It's the South. Just kidding, everybody. But the fact that happens, and then he tells his sisters, or he has Bran tell his sisters, or his cousins actually, and then Sansa doesn't keep the secret. Like, Ned kept the secret for 18 years. You couldn't even keep a secret for 18 minutes of screen time. Like, and then now this is going to throw everything into a loop. And then Varys is trying to switch sides. Somebody kill him already. Why is he still alive? I want him dead.
Yeah, I think he might go. And yeah, man, but why would, like, Jon Snow knows that Sansa doesn't like her and doesn't want her to be queen. So then why would he tell her about that?
Yeah.
And think that she'd be like, well, all right, well, your secret's safe with me, bro.
Well, he's
we're not really
honor,
bros,
right?
I guess, but
he can't lie.
What?
Remember his whole speech when they took the White up to show Cersei last season about, like, I can't lie. They wanted him to lie and say that he wouldn't pick a side between Cersei and Daenerys. But he's like, I can't do that. I've already bent the knee to my queen, Daenerys. And everyone's like, why didn't you lie? And he's like, you can't lie. I'm a man of honor. And, if lies, won't help us win these battles that we need to win. So he's just such a Boy Scout. He can't lie is the reason why I guess he had to get off his chest and really let his, quote, sisters know that they're really just cousins.
Yeah, or even that. I guess they're related. But yeah, like, nobody asked him, hey, are you the rightful heir to the Iron Throne?
Right.
It could have just been a lie of omission. Those aren't really lies. Just not telling them doesn't mean you're lying to them. They're not asking you a direct question. That's probably not really how a lie works, but that's my way of thinking. But either way, it's very, very. Of course, that was going to happen. Of course, and I don't quite understand. I mean, I do now, I think, but I never quite understood what Sansa's problem is with Daenerys.
Yeah,
like she did help them win the war. She came up there. And like Sansa's always had an issue with her the entire time. and I don't quite understand what the deal is. Or Arya, for that matter. Like, what's their problem with her? Like, now there's a problem with her because she's about to start a war. She didn't listen to Sansa's like sage advice of like, hey, let's rest up a little bit. And she just got another dragon killed. So I get it now, and she also wants Jon Snow to lie about who he really is. So there's a reason to not like her now. I just never understood the hostility the last 3 episodes.
I think part of it obviously is when she talked to Daenerys and was just like, listen, men do stupid things for women they love, so they just think that Jon's on the right state of mind. They're afraid that Jon is so in love with Daenerys that he's going to do things that are, better for her as opposed to the Stark family. I think maybe part of it too is the going back, like, Daenerys' dad, the Mad King, killed like Ned Stark's dad, and I think Ned's brother, which would be their uncle. So like her father killed their grandpa and their uncle, so there's a little bit of bad blood. And how about Daenerys like calling out Gendry, like, oh, you're Robert Baratheon's son, right? Robert tried to kill me, right? He's dead. I'm not. And you're like, whoa. Like, whoa.
Yeah. But you would think with Sansa, like the person she should hate most in the world, obviously, is Cersei.
Correct. So why not do everything you can to get her? Yeah, no, you're right. That's you know what I mean?
Like that's who your real enemy is, and she's going to try to go kill her. So get on board, sister. Like that's the woman that had your dad's head chopped off. That's the woman that sold you and had awful things happen to you in King's Landing. That's the person you should hate. Yeah. So yeah, it's just kind of odd that she has so much hostility for the lady that kind of, although really in the grand scheme of things, did Daenerys keep the world alive? That blue dragon accomplished more than her dragons did in that fight.
Yeah, if you really want to get into things, plot holes, or you don't like the way the stories are being told, man, that dragon blew down the wall that's been held up by magic and ice for thousands of years, and that dragon couldn't have just blown Winterfell to smithereens. Like the one blast of fire it gave the outside, it crumbled it. And then meanwhile, Jon Snow was like ducking in corridors and behind walls to avoid the blue flame, and he was all right. And then he yelled at it. But
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. But you're right. See, that's what we're doing. Yeah. We promise next week, folks.
Too much nitpicking.
No matter what the episode is, we're gonna talk about how awesome it is. Because it is an awesome show. I'm tired of saying it, but it is. It is so good, I guess, that we have nitpicks because we're so invested in it because it has been so awesome. That we just want to see it end the right way. That's all. I try not to be one of those nerds that's personal. Every bad episode of the show I love is a personal affront. And how dare you? Like those people that hated, and I get it, the Phantom Menace wasn't any good. And Jar Jar Binks was ridiculous. But you know what, Star Wars nerds? That dude gave you a life. Like George Lucas is the reason he gave you 20 years of life to nerd out over. So give him a benefit of the doubt. I'm doing the same thing with these producers for Game of Thrones. Yeah. Haven't liked these 2 episodes that much, especially this last one. But I'm trying to let it slide and not be mean because it is an awesome show, and I've really enjoyed everything these guys have done for us.
I have no doubt it's going to end awesome. I mean, they have to build the suspense, and that's what this past episode did. So we'll go out with a bang on that note.
How long has this been? How long have we done this?
Oh, we're well over an hour and a half.
Boy.
We won't be doing these that often.
After all this, like we talked about college baseball. We talked about a football, basketball recruit. We talked about a crazy article from the Charleston paper and Game of Thrones. And we had an interview with Michael Langston. And we just talked about Game of Thrones for, 30 minutes. If you've listened to all this, go and review and rate this show. You obviously like it. You like, you know what I mean? Like we do all right. We do okay. We put together good shows every now and again. Go rate and review it a 5-star. Even if you think we're just a 3-star, give us a 5-star grade because we love you and we do it for you.
FSU lacrosse is up 6-5 with 10:23 left in the third. Also, if you guys want, we're going to open the phone lines back up since we are kind of slow this time of year. So maybe when we need a show and we need some content, we'll run some of the questions. 850-792-5730. That was not a very confident number that I just read out there.
Could be right, or could be somebody actually answering the phone.
Yeah, I should probably look that up as we're getting ready to sign off on here. But I don't know how many more shows we're going to have this week. We will at least have one more for sure. And it is, indeed, it's 850-792-5730. Always trust your first instinct, kids. We'll have at least one more show this week when we'll do the Renegade Express. Obviously, if there's any breaking stuff that happens, Corey and I will deliver because that's what he does, and I'm just along for the ride. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great one, everybody.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.